My whole adult life, I've worked with many judges and a lot of different people in law enforcement, and she's different. Judge Carruth, she's young, she's energetic, and she's been an attorney before, so she brings a lot to the table when it comes to treating people fairly and Class C misdemeanor cases. I consider her a really good friend. She's always willing to help out. She cares about people. She just loves to teach. During her lunch hour, she goes over to Tech for an hour, teaches business law and a couple different classes. And the cool thing about that is a lot of her students actually want to come over to her courtroom and do intern work just to see firsthand how, court procedures are done. I notice probably 3 or 4 times a week she's either speaking at a luncheon or some type of event to, educate people about the apartment association, the women's bar association. She's part of so many different organizations. I mean, I can't even remember all the stuff that she does. Meals on Wheels. She's just always willing to volunteer. She's not selfish at all. We're the only JP court that I've ever even heard of, especially in Lubbock County, that allows a second chance program. It's basically, she allows students that's made a bad decision, that's under the age of 22, to have a second chance by going through a program. And the cool thing about that program, it's been a 99% pass rate. She does believe in second chances and helping students, be successful in life. I think she's willing to volunteer so much time is because of the way she was brought up. She grew up around her mom and dad in La Mesa, Texas, and her father has been a county judge and a district judge, so she grew up around that, and it's her passion. She learned to respect the law, respect people. I think she's proud to follow in her father's footsteps.
Nominated by Constable C.J. Peterson, Jeff Lowry, and Gene Valentini, the 2017 award in government is presented to the Honorable Judge Anne Marie Carruth. She is introduced by Mr. Mark Griffin of YWCA sponsor, the Rip Griffin Family of Companies, and presenting the award is 2013 Academy member, Miss Mary Satoff.
It's kind of interesting that an old broken down lawyer would get to introduce another one. My first client got life, and that was the apex of my legal career. I said, Dad, those filling stations are looking real attractive right now. What a wonderful lady, wonderful story that we get to share this evening. But before I say a word about Judge Anne Marie, let me say something about her daddy. You see, she comes by this nature and this profession naturally. Her dad was recently honored by the Texas Bar Foundation as the outstanding 50-year lawyer in the state of Texas. Sam Slaw is here tonight. Sam, stand up and let us recognize you. So all she's doing is just following in the footsteps, and they're pretty sizable. But my sense tells me that this young lady has the ability to do that. The story around the courthouse is in the first 4 months of her service as Justice of the Peace for Precinct 4, she disposed of 2,200 cases. And to her husband, Kyle's chagrin, 2,500 pounds of boxes of documents. He has just now got out of the back brace, I think, from moving that. But in the real life world of a justice of the peace, it's the grimier aspects, the more real life aspects of the law and the people who have to stand in judgment under it. And as you saw in the video, Judge Anne Marie has a certain flair and a certain compassion that gives, I think, a presence to people who don't know what to expect, most often aren't represented, are frankly probably scared to death. And yet you saw in the video what her results are, especially with those first-time offenders. That's a difference maker. That changes a life every day at the courthouse from someone who doesn't have a chance, but is given a second one. You know, just the statistics that I quoted you is impressive tonight. But what brings her to the stage tonight, I think, is a recognition of her compassion, of her integrity, of her judgment. And let me tell you this. This judicial stop is probably not her last one. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me honor and welcome Judge Anne Marie Carruth, a true woman of excellence.
Well, I'm usually not a crier, but when you bring out the little daddy's girl in me, it kind of gets me a little emotional. And there are a lot of you here. So first of all, let me thank the people who have gotten me where I am today. Like most of you, it takes a team of people and it takes a support system. And as a working mom and wife, there's no way that I would be able to do what I do without my husband, Kyle. So Kyle, thank you for supporting me and giving me the opportunity to do what I love. I wanted to be a lawyer and a judge for as long as I can remember. In fact, in preschool, I carried a briefcase to nursery school for those really important documents. And I was always around my parents in their law office, and so I guess when I was about 3 or 4, my dad finally said, okay, you can come with me. I'm not in court today, but you can watch, and it's a criminal case. I was really excited. I took my briefcase. And we got up to the district court in Lamesa, Texas, and the defense lawyer calls his client to the stand. And in true fashion, he asks him, Mr. Smith, were you there on such and such date? And he says, no, sir, I wasn't. And for real Perry Mason effect, he says, you're telling me you weren't there on the such and such date? And the client looks at him and says, no, sir, I wasn't there. And I stand up in the gallery on the pew, and I pointed at him and I said, he's lying. Right in the middle of the jury trial. So my dad scoops me up, takes me outside, and says, this isn't really how the judicial system works. Let me explain it to you. I was in 4th grade, I think, when I was allowed to go back to the courtroom. And on that day, I went with my dad, and I noticed that there weren't any women in the courtroom that day. And it was something that I had never noticed before. So I went back to the law office that afternoon, and I drew my version of the courtroom. And the attorneys were lawyers. The judge was a lawyer. Were women. And the bailiffs were women. And in fact, every juror in the jury box was a woman. I really didn't know any other way. As you can tell, I guess I just thought women could do it all. And that's what I set out to do, because I had 2 amazing parents who taught me to be bold. They taught me to be bold in the choices that I make. They taught me to be bold enough to push my own limitations. And they taught me to be bold enough to stand up for what I believed in. And probably most importantly, they taught me to be bold enough to get back up when you've been knocked down. As I stand here this evening, my joy and honor don't come from being given this award. The joy comes from being able to publicly thank my parents and my husband for placing me where I am today. And I'm honored to receive an award for a job that I feel honored to get to do. So on behalf of my family, on behalf of my husband, Kyle, and on behalf of all of those little girls who want to grow up and do something bold, thank you very much. God bless.